Shalom, everybody. Yahuwah condemns paganism. Yahuwah condemns using pagan religious practices in his worship. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 29 through 31. Yahuwah condemns adding to or taking away from his commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 32. Yahuwah condemns doing anything under green trees in his worship. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 1 through 4. Yahuwah condemns the heathen use of decorated trees at a solstice. Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 4. Yahuwah commands us to separate from and not touch pagan religion. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 through 18. Yahuwah commands us to come out of spiritual Babylon and her sins. Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. Yahuwah condemns turning to the left or right from his commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 32 and 33. Yahushua, Mashiach, instructed his disciples to teach us to observe only his commands. Matthew 28, verse 20. Yahuwah requires reverence and fear in worship to avoid his fire. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 28 through 29. Yahuwah seeks true worshipers to worship him in truth, not superstition. John chapter 4, verse 23 and 24. Yahuwah condemns fellowship with men having only an appearance of righteousness. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 5. Yahuwah condemns anything different from his work as dark ignorance. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 20. Yahuwah condemns anything popular with the world and esteemed by it. Luke chapter 16, verse 15. Yahuwah condemns traditions in his worship as evil and vain hypocrisy. Yahuwah hates the polluting of his esteemed name with pagan idolatry. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 39. Yahuwah condemns the superstitious idolatry. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 26. Yahuwah considers the birth of his son, Yahushua HaMashiach, worthy of honor rather than folly. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 6. 45 things that Yahuwah hates. 1. Homosexual acts. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. Bestiality. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 23. Idols and the materials used to make idols. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 25. Anything can be an idol, people. Your crosses, your family can be an idol. Your career can be an idol. Friends can be idol. Television, sports, sporting collections, sports cards, autographs. Idols are very, very wide. It's a very, very wide topic. Number 4, blemished sacrifices. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 1. Number 5, worshiping the sun, moon, or stars. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 3 and 4. Religions. People don't even realize it. And that also falls under zodiacs as well. Zodiacs. What's your sign? That's all. He don't like that. Yahuwah does not like that. Divination. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10. Astrology. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10. Enchanters. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10. Witches. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10. Charmers. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 11. Wizards. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 11. Necromancers, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 11. Transvestism, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5. The hire of a whore, Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 18. Remarriage to a former wife after she has been married to another man, Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 4. Dishonest scales, Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 13 to 16. Workers of iniquity, Psalms chapter 5, verse 5. The wicked, Psalms chapter 11, verse 5. Those who love violence, Psalms chapter 11, verse 5. The froward, the perverse, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 32. A proud look, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 through 17. A lying tongue, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 17. Hands that shed innocent blood, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 17. A heart that devises wicked imaginations. A heart that devises wicked imaginations. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 18. Number 25. Feet that are swift in running to mischief. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 18. A false witness who speaks lies. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 19. Anyone who sows discord among brethren. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 19. Lying lips. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 22. Number 29. The sacrifices of the wicked. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 8. 30. The ways of the wicked. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 9. 31. The thoughts of the wicked. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 26. 32. The proud in heart. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 5. 33. Those who justify the wicked. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 15. Those who condemn the just. That was number 34. Those who condemn the just. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 15. 35. Vain sacrifices. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 13. 36. Feasts as Israel celebrated them when they weren't celebrating them correctly. Isaiah chapter 1, 14. 37. Robbery for burnt offering. Isaiah chapter 61, verse 8. Number 38. Idolatry. Jeremiah chapter 44, verses 2 through 4. 39. Evil plans against neighbors. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 17. 40. False oaths. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 17. 41. Esau. Malachi, first chapter, verses 1 through 3. And Romans chapter 9, verse 13. Actually, it's Jacob that I loved, and Esau I had hated. Number 42. Divorce. Malachi chapter 2, verse 14 through 16. 43. The deeds of the Nicolaitans. Revelations chapter 2, verse 6 and 15. 44. You shall not set up a sacred pillar, which YAHUAH your Elohim hates. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 22. Those are the steeples that they have in every church. Number 45. YAHUAH hates the deeds of the Nicolaitans. Revelations chapter 2, verse 6 and 15. For YAHUAH is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all mighty ones. For all the gods of the peoples are idols. But YAHUAH made the heavens, the Shemayim. Honor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Psalms 96, 4 through 6. Leviticus 26, chapter 26, verse 1. Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven images, neither rear neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any images of stone in your land to bow down onto. For I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. We're not supposed to have any carved images. Statues, they're all over the place. Judgment's coming soon, I'll tell you that. Every municipality building you have, there's a statue. There's pillars on every corner in every church. Exodus chapter 9 verse 1. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, go into Pharaoh and say to him, so says Yahuwah, the Elohim of the Hebrews, send away my people that they may serve me. 1 Kings chapter 11, 32 to 34. And he shall have the one tribe for my servants Dawood's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Yasharal, because they have forsaken me, and bow themselves to Easter, or Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, to Chemosh, the god of Moab, to Milcom, the god of the sons of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do the right in my eyes, and my statutes and my judgments, as his father David. But I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life, for my servant David's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commands and my statutes. You must not worship Yahuwah, your Elohim, in their way. Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 4. But concerning spiritual gifts, my brethren, I want to remind you that once you were pagans, and without exception, you were led to dumb idols. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 1 and 2. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? For it is fitting to you, because there is none like you among all the wise of the nations, and in all their kingdoms. But they are altogether foolish and stupid. Their tree is an instruction of vanities. Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 7 and 8. These are the statutes and the judgments which you shall take heed to do in the land which Yahuwah, the Elohim of your fathers, has given to you to possess it. All the days that you live on the earth, you shall completely destroy all the places where the nations which you are dispossessing serve their gods, on the high mountain, and on the hills, and under every leafy tree. And you shall break down their altars, and shatter their standing pillars. And you shall burn their Asherahs with fire, and you shall cut down the carved images of their gods, and shall destroy their names out of that place. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verses 1 through 6. You shall not set up for yourself pillars of any trees which you make for yourself near the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall not raise up yourself any standing image which Elohim detests. Yahuwah. That's Deuteronomy chapter 16, 21 and 22. No trees. Christmas. Hello. Wow. And beware lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun and moon and the stars and all the hosts of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them, things that Yahuwah your Elohim has allotted to all the people under the whole Shemayim. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 19. And they shall spread them before the sun and the moon and the hosts of Shemayim heaven, whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered, nor be buried. They shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 2. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1 through 6. 1 through 8. Hear the word of Yahuwah speaks to you, O house of Yashriel. So says Yahuwah, do not learn the way of the nations, and do not be terrified at the signs of the heavens. For the nations were terrified at them. For the customs of the people are vanity. For one cuts a tree out of the forest with an axe, the work of the hands of the craftsman. They adorn it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers, so that it will not wobble. They are upright as the palm tree, and they cannot speak. Carrying they must be carried, because they cannot walk. Do not be afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither is it in them to do good. There is none like you, O Yahuwah. You are great, and your name is great in might. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? For it is fitting to you, because there is none like you among all the wise of the nations, and in their kingdoms. But they are altogether foolish and stupid. Their tree is an instruction of vanities. He's talking about the Christmas tree. That's what he's talking about. Amos, I despise your religious festivals. I'll repeat that. Amos chapter 5, verse 21. I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 4. You must not worship Yahuwah your Elohim in their way. He's talking about religions and man-made traditions. Get out of the man-made traditions. Mark chapter 7, verse 13. Making the word of Yahuwah of no effect by your tradition which you delivered, and may such like things you do. Okay, now this next part is about pagan words that we should not be using. The following words and terms used in modern churches today all have pagan origins and are found to be directly linked to ancient sun worship found in Babylonian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, German, Hindu, and Persian cultures. English words forms of the names of the sun deities in these ancient cultures still exist today and are used in modern Christianity. True believers should remove these words from our language, from teaching, and certainly from our worship assemblies. Okay. Angel. Angels, from the Greek word angelos, meaning messenger, messengers. Angelos was the name of a Greek god associated with sun worship. Obviously, I'm going to have to say all these names because I'm teaching. I'm in the process of informing. So in order, for the sake of informing, I'm going to have to say these names. So that was a Greek god for sun worship. Malakim, from Hebrew word meaning messenger, has no association with sun worship. So instead of saying angel, say Malakim, or messenger. Sunday was the day set aside in the Mithra Roman cult, as it is official day to assemble together to worship its sun deity. Roman Emperor Constantine legislated Sunday as a day of rest dedicated to the Greek and Roman sun god Helios. Constantine worshipped Christos Helios, which means Christ, the true sun, S-U-N. The Roman Catholic Church venerates Sunday as its Sabbath even today and has handed it down to Christianity. Shabbat, Sabbath, is the Hebrew word pertaining to Yahuwah's seventh day of rest. It is the fourth commandment, Exodus chapter 29, verses 8 through 11, and a sign for all Israelite generations, descendants, found in Exodus chapter 30, verse 13 and 17. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12 and 20. Remember, Yahuwah told Abraham he was going to make many nations out of him. We are all the children of Israel, all of us. We all descendants of Abraham. So you're either Israel or you're a Gentile, and the Gentiles are the disobedient ones. So if you're going to be disobedient, you're not going to be saved. Yahuwah's not going to protect you. You have to engraft into Israel. You're either Israel or you're dead, basically. I'm sorry, I'm just being completely honest. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm being honest. Lord, Baal, comes from the Old English spelling of lard, L-A-R-D, which comes from larth, lares. It's a Roman deity associated with sun worship. The Greek word kurios was originally a title for the Greek and Roman sun deity, or god. Deity is God. Helios. Deity is pagan sun god. That's what the deity is. And was called the Kurios, Lord Baal of heaven and earth. The Hindu god Krishna is also known as Lord. The title Lord was eventually applied to all heathen deities. Most Bible translators continue to use the title Lord as a substitute name for Yahuwah. Yahuwah is the name given to Moses in Exodus chapter 3, verse 15. It is the name of Yahuwah, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which appears in the Hebrew manuscripts and is to be known by his people throughout all generations. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 5 admonishes Yahuwah's people to know only the Father and no other mighty ones, gods or lords. Jesus comes from the Greek name Iesous, or I-H-S-O-U-S, and Latin Iesus. Iesus is adapted from the name of the Greek goddess of healing, Iesus Lasso, the daughter of Apollo, the sun god or deity. This goddess was linked to the Egyptian Isis, who had a son named Isu, I-S-U. During the era of Roman emperors, there were numerous worshippers of Isis. Many converted to Constantine's religion that mixed paganism with the messianic faith that eventually became the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church continues to use the sunburst emblem known as the Eucharist, which to this day contains the Greek letters IHS for IHSOUS. Further research reveals that the name Jesus is also linked to the Greek sun god Zeus, who was the Greek interpretation of the Egyptian sun god Amen-Ra. Yahusha is the correct name for Yahuwah Elohim's son. The name is rendered, or our Mashiach, our Messiah, is Yahusha. The name is rendered to mean salvation of Yahuwah. Yahuwah saves. The name in its fullest translation means He, Yahuwah, shall save his people from their sins. Matthew 1:21. This was the invention of the rabbis of the school of Tiberius in the 9th century CE AD. By doing this, they attach their understanding to the words and names in their texts of the Hebrew Bible. The Masoretes were groups of mostly, that's Masoretes, were groups of mostly Caraite scribes and scholars working between the 7th and 11th centuries, based primarily in the present-day Israel and the cities of Tiberias and Jerusalem, as well as in Iraq, Babylonia, that's modern-day Iraq. Each group compiled a system of pronunciation and grammatical guides in the form of diacritical notes on the external form of the biblical text in an attempt to fix the pronunciation, paragraph and verse divisions, and cantillation of the Jewish Bible and the Tanakh for the worldwide Jewish community. The writers of the Talmud would like us to believe that Yahushua HaMashiach's name is spelled Jeschu based on Yeshu, 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 the acronym for Yemak. May his name be blotted out. That's what Yeshu means. May his name literally be blotted out. Due to infallible name doctrine, the vowel points were added by Hebrew religious authorities that refused to use the great name, that in no way would acknowledge the Messiah. Yeshu is an Orthodox Jewish or Rabbinical Jewish acronym meaning may his name be blotted out, which should have no place among believers in Yahuwah Almighty. We don't do Yeshu. We don't blot out our salvation or our Father or his Son. Not a good move. God, Gad, Gud are all interrelated names. God was common Teutonic, Germanic word that was applied to superhuman beings of heathen mythology. Later, the word God was adopted by Christianity as the generic name for the supreme being. It has become the most popular translation for the Hebrew word Elohim. As a result, most of Christendom believes that the name for Elohim is God, and does not know that the personal name of the Father is Yahuwah. God, G-A-W-D, God, Gad, G-A-D, was the Babylonian Canaanite Syrian deity of good luck and fortune. It was the Babylonian god of good luck and fortune. God, the Babylonian deity of fortune and luck. Strong's H1408. Hebrew Strong's 1408. Also called Meni, M-E-N-I, the deity of fate, H4507, who was regarded as the Lord Moon. The city of Gad was named after this deity. Gad god was identified with Jupiter, the sun deity, and applied to Nimrod, whose general character was that of a sun god or sun divinity. Gud was the Anglo-Saxon name for good god versus an evil god. God is no good. It's a poor title. Why would we want to call our Creator that? It means HalleluYah Elohim in Yehudith Hebrew, El, Elohim are the proper modern Hebrew terms in the singular El, Eluah, meaning mighty one, and plural, Elohim, meaning mighty ones. Note, traditional rabbinical Judaism still uses the subtitles of Adonai, Hashem, God, for the name of Yahuwah, even though the four letters known in the Greek as the Tetragrammaton appear in the scrolls. The tradition of not speaking the name came into being during the rabbi's exile into Babylon. It was learned from the Babylonian religious practice of not speaking the names of the sun deities for fear that their names were too quote-unquote holy and would bring disaster on the nation if they did so. The practice of not speaking a deity's name, hiding it from the people, and substituting titles for the name is called the art of infallibility and is based purely on fear, superstition, and man-made tradition. Church comes from the Anglo-Saxon root word cerce, church, cerce, and stems from the Greek name of the goddess Circe, C-I-R-C-E, the daughter of Helios, the Roman sun god adopted from Greek mythology. Linked to this goddess in Celtic pagan worship is the name Kirche, K-I-R-C-E. From her name comes the word Kirche, which pertained to the building dedicated to pagan Celtic worship and rituals. The Greek word Kurikon was used for the building of House of Kurios, Lord Baal. Hebrew Strong's 1168. Kahal, Kahelet are the proper Hebrew words pertaining to a public place of assembly or congregational place worship dedicated to Yahuwah. Ecclesia is the Greek word used in the Brit Kadashah New Testament for the assembly of the called out ones, but it is never used in reference to a building, only